Welcome back to Let's Play the Adventures of Batman and Robin. Last time we defeated the Riddler in a battle of wits, and for good measure, sealed him inside his own virtual reality world. And today we have our first appearance of the Bat Signal, the one and only appearance of the Bat Signal in this game in fact, the return of an old friend in Commissioner Gordon, who's just returned from the same virtual reality world that the Riddler is now imprisoned within, and the first mention of a very familiar location to fans of the TV series, Arkham Asylum. This was the prison inside Gotham City that the insane criminals were sent to, usually after they were defeated by Batman. And the plot here is simple, but rather effective. Joker has broken out of Arkham Asylum, taken some of Batman's fiercest foes with him. They've gone to an old abandoned warehouse and challenged Batman to come and get them. It's obviously a trap, but we still have to go in and get them because we're Batman, and more importantly, justice will be served, even in Gotham City. Equipment screen then, you're not going to want to take the smoke bomb or the spray gun or indeed anything that doesn't give you an offensive edge, because this is a fight to the death. We are taking no prisoners. Except of course that's exactly what it is that we're trying to do. So the final challenge of the game comes to us in the form of a traditional Konami style boss rush, beginning here with the Penguin, who shouldn't really be here at all. The opening text stated that the Joker broke himself and others out of Arkham Asylum, but the Penguin would never have been sent to Arkham because he's not insane. Arkham is just for insane criminals. Penguin was always sent to Stonegate Penitentiary instead whenever Batman defeated him. Now you can use the Batarang on Penguin, it will stun him, but it doesn't give you enough of an opening to attack him, so it's really not worth it. And I have to say I do love that animation when you pick him up and he starts dangling and squirming like the fish on the end of a hook. Penguin will fight you exactly how we did back at the end of the third level of the game, but it's a lot easier this time round. Most of his attacks are still controlled by the distance you're standing away from him. If you're directly in his face, he'll try and jab you with his umbrella, in which point you just block, or even better, move slightly away from him, in which case he'll jab with the umbrella, miss, and you have a wonderful opening to punch him in the face. If you're standing half distance or further away from him, he'll try and shoot you with his machine gun, just duck to avoid it and make sure you're not standing all the way on the other side of the screen, or he will hit you because you've got no room to avoid him. But the main reason this fight's much easier? You don't have to deal with a goddamn attack helicopter, and that's why the Fatman went down in record time there. You can also use a plastic explosion on Penguin when he's trying to shoot you with his umbrella, but personally I recommend you save them for a later boss instead. Our second opponent is the Scarecrow, and that line is still all kinds of wrong to me. A big dose of your special gas, that's just nasty, Scarecrow. Now, this guy posed a challenge to me back in level 6, but here, he really doesn't. Remember what I said about the Batarang being overpowered in previous videos? You ain't seen nothing yet. The Batarang completely shuts this guy down. And also, if you're all the way up the other side of the screen from him, he can't shoot you and he's forced to punch you, and that's where the problem really begins for him, because it's actually possible to infinitely lock this guy into a pattern. In not one but two ways. You can either do what I'm doing here and move left and right and punch him in the face. You can break it if he jumps away from you, but then you just use the Batarang and roll to him. Or, if you want to be even safer, you can just use the Batarang, punch him, rinse, and repeat. The nice flat terrain makes him so much easier than he was back in his original level. It looks like he hit me at the end there, but no. My health did not go down. You always spring up like that when you deliver the final blow to him. And now this boss rush does something completely original, and gives us an entirely new villain we haven't faced before. Clayface, who literally comes in like a wrecking ball. That can hurt you if you're standing too near him when he does that, or if you roll directly into him like an idiot. Clayface was voiced back in the animated series by Ron Perlman. This has gone to do things like Hellboy and Blade 2. Clayface will begin the fight by throwing a gigantic block of clay directly at your head, so just duck. He'll always do this if you're standing too far away from him. Clayface is easily the most solidly built boss we've encountered so far. Ninja stars barely phase him and the Batarang does nothing to him, so what you've got to do is run up to him and kick him. When he throws his blobs of clay, you can duck the first lot and jump over the second. Just be careful of his wrecking ball attack because that does a lot of damage if it hits you, and also he can sometimes mix it up and roll 3 times instead of 2 if you're not standing in the centre of the room. Now back in the comic books, there were 8 different Clayfaces, but in the animated series there's only one, Matt Hagen, an actor who was facially disfigured in an accident and discovered a compound known as Renew You, and yes, that's a terrible pun, which could seemingly restore facial features. It turned out it was kind of a scam run by another crook called Roland Daggett. Daggett's thugs kidnapped Hagen and tried to kill him by submerging him in a vat of the stuff, Instead, he magnetically bonded with it and became the shape-shifting Clayface, at the cost of his body kind of gradually breaking down, so that kind of sucks. Two interesting facts about Clayface. At the end of both of his episodes, Mudslide and Vita Clay respectively, he seemingly dies, only to have it be revealed that he faked his own death each time. Also, the two-parter he's introduced in, Feet of Clay, has the honour of being the first two-parter of the series ever produced, though not aired. That honour went to The Cat and the Claw, and I'm not going into the whole production order versus episode airing order, because that's just a slippery slope. Speaking of The Cat and the Claw, our next challenge is Catwoman, who for some reason has almost identical dialogue to what Clayface had back when we were fighting him. Catwoman will battle you exactly how she did back at the end of level 4, so anything that worked then still works now. Keep your distance, and if you have any ninja stars, now's the time to throw them because they'll take up a lot of her health, and also they will push her a fair distance back, and this fight is all about distance, like it was back in level 4. The Batarang is still overpowered, and just don't get trapped into a corner and you should be absolutely fine. And if you can trap her into a corner like I'm doing here, then you have the bonus of being able to whittle down nearly all her health with a near infinite combo of jumping in and kicking her. Just be wary of the timing and be careful because she does have a jump kick of her own that can break that combo. But just keep your distance, don't lose too much health, and you're absolutely golden. And much like Penguin shouldn't have been here before, neither should Catwoman. Not only was she never sent to Arkham because she's not insane, she was never imprisoned at all. She was arrested by Batman back at the end of The Cat and the Claw, but she got 5 years of parole instead of hard jail time for her part in helping to save Gotham City from terrorists. And now time for our second original boss, but much more importantly, time for Mode 7. This is Man-Bat, alias Dr. Kurt Langstrom. He appeared in 2 episodes of the TV series, On Level Wings, which was the first episode ever produced, and Terror in the Sky. And he couldn't talk in either of those episodes, so him having dialogue here is completely nonsensical. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the Man-Bat as a boss or as a villain. The plastic explosive will hit him twice, and because of that and the fact that you can punch him when he flies into the foreground to attack you, he goes down insanely quickly, and kind of makes me wonder why Konami bothered to put him in the game in the first place. It goes without saying at this point that Man-Bat was never incarcerated in Arkham Asylum either. I get that he's the penultimate boss of the boss rush, and his role is to whittle down your health a bit so the final boss is more of a challenge, but surely Harley Quinn here would be a far better choice given who that final boss is. I mean, she was technically his bodyguard in the TV series, and she could have been a really interesting boss fight in my opinion. Sadly, her only role is to introduce the true final boss. Who else is it going to be but Mr. J himself, the Joker? I mean, come on, who else was it going to be? I've already stated that the Joker is the most iconic Batman villain of all time, not to mention it was he who set the whole ball rolling in the first place when he broke himself and the others out of Arkham Asylum back at the beginning of the level. And if you're wondering why he's using a jetpack of all things to fight us, he did actually use a jetpack at the end of the 1993 movie Mask of the Phantasm, so it does fit. And I should warn you here, in order to beat this guy, you're going to need to use one of the most complicated strategies ever devised for a video game. Stand still and punch him. Yes, that's all there is to it. Just stand in the middle here, you don't need to move around the screen at all, and just punch him whenever he flies towards you. And just in case you thought that wasn't easy enough, they made it so that Batman automatically turns around whenever the Joker's flying at him. So yeah, absolutely pathetically easy. When the jetpack starts smoking like it's doing here, it's almost over, he's almost out of health, but psych, he has a second form. I mean, come on, it's a Konami end boss, of course he's going to have a second form. If you have any plastic explosives left over from the Man-Bat battle, now's the time to use them. Not only will they do decent damage to the Joker, but if you manage to throw one over his head like I just did, you'll actually hit him twice with it. Joker fights identically to how he did back in the first level of the game, right down to the Shao Kahn-esque laugh when you don't manage to land a hit on him after a couple of attack cycles. All his moves are exactly the same, the only difference really is that he has a lot more health this time around. He'll try and throw his bombs at you if you're not directly in his face. You can have a jump over them, you can deflect them with the Batarang if you have good timing, or you can even block them, which is strange because, to my knowledge, this is the only time in the game you can block an explosive attack and not take any damage other than the usual chip damage. The trick to making the Joker easier is to force him to attack you physically by not giving him enough space to throw his bombs. Then he'll either punch you or spray you with his silly flower. And be careful with the flower attack because it does actually hit you twice, so you have to block both hits of it. I didn't, so I just got hit. And there is a way to actually lock him into an infinite pattern, much like I did with the Scarecrow earlier on. what you're going to do is force him to attack you physically, so he goes for a punch or the flower, then hit him, he'll jump over your head to the other side of the screen, follow him, close him down, hit him again, rinse and repeat until he's dead. I appreciate that the first boss of the game is also technically the final boss of the game, but the best part of this battle is the music. It's seriously awesome and really sets the scene for a climactic final boss. Also, I just punched a goddamn explosive out of the air! I guess some days you can get rid of a bomb. I mean, the Joker was the right choice for the final boss of this game because he has more appearances than any other villain in the entire animated series. I just wish they made it more of a challenge. I mean, I played intentionally sloppy to show up all his attacks, I lost nearly half my health, I still made him look really easy. That's not really the mark of a good final boss, is it? You get a different ending depending on which difficulty you beat the game on, easy, normal or hard. This is of course the hard ending, although I will include the easy and medium endings in the links to this, although they're not that special really. The only things that change are the dialogue, and also one thing between normal and hard ending, which I will cover when we get to it. I kind of like that line from Batman, you never know an enemy might reappear. I feel like that's a subtle nod to the fact that in the TV series, he'd always defeat the villain in the end. Sometimes they'd even seemingly die, only for them to come back alive and well in a future episode. But maybe I'm just reading far too much into that, because, hell, when do I ever do that, guys? Now, like me, you might feel that just a few extra lines of dialogue is not a fitting reward for beating the game on the hardest difficulty. Well, fear not, because here's your true reward. You get to experience the full glory of the extended cast list. With this awesome theme music playing in the background, seriously, this might be my favourite piece of music of the entire game. Oh, Harley, it's kind of a shame Konami didn't give you a chance to shine in this title. Okay, she gets included in the cast list, which is a nice nod by Konami, and maybe realising, oh, maybe we should have included her after all as her own boss. She does get to be a boss at last in the Sega Genesis version of this game, which is not a straight port, it's completely different. It came out a year after, it was not made by Konami, it's made by a completely different company, I forget who at this time, and it's basically Gunstar Heroes. I might cover it at a later date, but certainly not for the time being. Penguin is still a classy jet even though he's trying to kill us, and I have to say, this is an hilarious picture of the Penguin. He looks like he's got his hand caught in the cookie jar, seriously. I should also point out that the guy playing this right now for the credits, he's probably better at the game than I am. He's doing really well against these bosses. That's kind of embarrassing for me to admit, but there you go. I think it's kind of a shame they didn't get to include Poison Ivy, Two-Face or the Riddler in the final boss gauntlet, but I can understand why they didn't. They did have a sprite of Two-Face ready made to include, as you saw just there from his cutscene in his level, but he's using a machine gun in it, so presumably he would run around the room shooting you, maybe throwing some bombs and punching you. Ask yourself this, how is that any different from how the Joker fought you or how the generic goons fought you in all the levels? Answer, it isn't, so maybe they were better off left out of the game. Also, the Riddler still getting the shaft, even in the credits. Seriously, he only appeared 3 times in the TV series, the 2 episodes I mentioned back in the last video, and Riddler's Reform. It's not enough for a brilliant villain like the Riddler. And Clayface. I like the choice of the additional boss, well, one of the additional bosses. I like the fact that the game gave us new bosses to fight in the boss rush. That's an original idea, more games should do that if they include a boss rush. But more games should not include the Man-Bat because he's not a very good villain. Also, this is actually where the normal cast roll finishes and the credits begin, so that means that you actually have to beat the game on hard in order to see the main protagonist featured in the credits to his own game. That is just mind-boggling. The main reason I wanted Two-Face and Ivy in the final boss gauntlet was an entirely selfish one. I just wanted an almost Gotham reunion. Because that episode is hilarious, it's easily one of the best ones they ever made, and that's saying something because they made a lot of brilliant episodes. And a slight correction from the previous video, I stated that Batgirl didn't appear until Series 3 and therefore couldn't be included in this game. Her actual debut was in Shadow of the Bat in Series 2, so she could have been included, but I understand why they chose not to. They did, just as Barbara, not as Batgirl. Also, hi there, worst sidekick ever, at least that's how you're depicted in this game. In the show, Robin is kind of useful, he has his moments, he helps Batman out quite a lot. In the game, Alfred Pennyworth is more useful than he is. I mean, I'm not dissing Alfred. Alfred is an awesome character, he's loyal to Bruce Wayne, he's a brilliant butler, but Robin's a superhero. It stands to reason that he would be more useful than Alfred in the situations Batman finds himself in, but To hell with common sense, says this game. And of course, Batman naturally ends the full cast list, and I still can't get enough of this theme. It's kind of theme that's going to have to end in a minute because we're done with the cast list. All that remains are the staff credits. As a nice touch, they played this 16-bit rendition of the end credits theme from the animated series, which, as I say, is a really nice touch, and it sounds really good even on a Super Nintendo. Also, you probably didn't get a chance to hear it, but if you let the title screen stand for a bit, it starts playing a rendition, 16-bit again, of the opening theme. Again, a really nice touch. So all that really remains for this Let's Play is to talk a little bit about my own personal experience with this game and what I really thought of it. I think you can probably guess, but I am a really big fan of this game. It probably helps that I am a huge fanatic of Batman, self-confessed fanatic of Batman, but I think even if this wasn't a Batman title, the core gameplay would still be enough to hook me in. I like the fact that the levels are all extremely different and unique to each other. Yes, even including the boss gauntlet at the end. They don't all work. Two-Face, I'm looking in your general direction, but for the most part, it's a really solid package of platforming action-adventure levels. But really, it is the fact that it's a Batman tie-in game that ticks all the boxes for me, and I don't mean that in an insane fanboy sort of way. I mean, the accuracy of this game to its source material is absolutely tremendous. I've stated that multiple times throughout the Let's Play, but I just want to go on record one more time. It really is. Somebody really did their homework in getting the game to match the TV series as much as possible. Also, I like how the director has a dot in the first O of his name, almost like he's more important than something. And I don't know if Murata Project Returns is a reference to Batman Returns. I choose to take it as such. But yeah, this is a brilliant game. I recommend you all play it, and I'll even go further. This is perhaps the best Super Nintendo tie-in game I've ever played, perhaps only second to Turtles in Time. There you are, I've said it. Controversial opinion ahoy. Come at me, bro. 1v1 me, Batman the duty. So on that controversial note, I think it's time to end. Oh no, not quite, because the high score does have a purpose. You get this little screen at the end saying, excellent, your score is whatever. It doesn't really have a purpose, unfortunately, because there's no high score table, so all you can really do is take a picture of it and frame it, if you're so inclined. If you want to, I won't stop you. But that really is all we've got time for. So, this has been Let's Play the Adventures of Batman and Robin, and all that's left to say is, I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did making it. Until next time, I've been Rainiac. Bye for now.